She's 18. She went on a website to hire a hitman.
To kill her 3-year-old son.
What?
To kill her own child.
To kill her own child? I didn't get that far.
A young mother is in jail in Miami, Florida, after police said she tried to hire a hitman to kill her son on a website. Welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. I'm Jeanette Levy. Police say Jasmine Paez used the website HireAHitman.com to try to hire someone to take out her young son. The website is a parody site, though, so the owner turned Paez into police.
So the intended victim, I guess, was her child, who's 3 years old.
According to the arrest form, the child is in the custody of the grandmother, I believe.
That's a good thing. Ms. Paez, have you ever been treated for any type of mental health condition?
No.
According to Miami-Dade Police, a detective posed as a hitman and sent a text to Paez. Police say she responded by sending a photo of her son and agreed to pay $3,000 for the boy to be taken far away and killed. Paez's father is defending her, telling a TV station in Miami, quote, "My daughter is not a monster. My daughter is a little girl who was born with health problems. She has liquid retained in her neck. She's had 12 surgeries. She lost the ability to move her face. She's been bullied in school. They called her the monster." Paez's father believes the justice system will flesh out the truth in the case. Meanwhile, the judge ordered Paez to not have any contact with her son whatsoever.
I'm ordering that you stay away from your 3-year-old child. I think it's her son, whose initials are CGP. No contact with this child, either directly, indirectly, in person, in writing, by telephone, or through third parties. And no contact with the victim through social media or other electronic means. And you must stay at least 500 feet away from the victim, his home, school, or daycare at all times. Do you understand that? I can't hear her, Miss Corey.
Yes.
And a neighbor who wants to remain anonymous told CBS Miami, quote, "I've never seen anything like this. To do something like this, what could be going through her mind? She's so young." Joining me to discuss this disturbing situation is Bob Inez. He is the owner of RentAHitman.com, and also he is the person who called Miami-Dade Police to report this. Bob, welcome to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Bob, I have to ask you right off the bat, why on earth do you own a website called RentAHitman.com?
Well, it was initially registered in 2005 for an IT security startup specializing in penetration testing, network risk analysis, with HIT being the key word. At the time, there were 4 of us involved in this startup. So rent as in hire us, HIT pertaining to network traffic, analytics, and that kind of thing. And men, well, again, there were a couple of us involved in the project. Business plans were never fully executed, you might say. And I was left holding on to the domain. And in the years following the failed business, I had tried to auction the website several times on different platforms, and there were no buyers. In 2010, I received a very disturbing email from a female stranded in Canada. She was from the UK. She had no passport, and she wanted to have 3 family members murdered. It was after that incident that I realized that the website had prevented the murder of those 3 people. And that's when it was basically reformatted into what it is today, a website where nobody can be stupid enough to hire a hitman online. And I'm proven wrong by that daily.
Yes, you've been proven wrong, it sounds like, time and time again.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty scary. I don't seek these people out. These people are looking for a hitman online, and they ultimately find the website.
How many people submit queries or what have you to your website weekly, do you think, just ballpark, who are just kind of joking around? And how many of these queries are serious?
Well, I have to say, in the last couple of weeks, the website's been hit with a lot of people just testing out the web page, the service request form. But on average, on an average month, it would receive about 200 service requests a month, that were credible in nature, that there was enough information to look into further. And only about 8 to 10% of those actually end up turning into um, anything like a welfare check or perhaps for further investigation.
So let's go to the Miami-Dade case. When did you realize that Jasmine Paez, or at least someone claiming to be her, she's saying she didn't do this, or at least her father is. When did you realize, wow, this person is serious?
Well, the first thing that tipped me off was the picture of the child and the date that she specified she needed this done by. So we were under time constraints immediately once the request was received. As soon as I started verifying names and addresses, that's when I became very real and had to act on it.
So you call Miami-Dade Police and you try to report this.
Tried to report this a couple of times to them. The first couple of phone calls, I was told to reach out to Crime Stoppers 305, I believe it is. And it was on the third or fourth phone call that I finally escalated it to a supervisor who I was able to explain the details to. And that's when they took it seriously and passed it on to the sergeant and detectives.
So you felt like in the beginning, they were just kind of pushing you off, because if you were to call in a Crime Stoppers tip, in some instances, it goes to, a switchboard somewhere else. They forward the tips. There's a lag there.
Yeah, definitely. I tried to express the importance, the significance of, the child's involvement, being the alleged target. And, Crime Stoppers just wasn't going to cut it. You mentioned the lag. I knew that. I was aware of that. And this couldn't wait.
What was her request to you at first, like the opening request?
The opening request. So basically, she specified on the service request form that she had to have, that she wanted to have the child taken far, far away and possibly killed. That was pretty much it. That summed it up. I knew what I needed to do at that point.
So after the police take you seriously, what happens? Do you just pose, or do they pose as the hitman? How does this move forward?
So once a service request is received, and that's what I call it, a service request, I'll send out an email, a response email, and I'll just ask, do you still require our services, and would you like me to place you in contact with the field operative? If the email bounces, or if they say no, maybe they have figured it out, or maybe it's a bad address, maybe it's just a hoax lead, and that kind of gets filed in one bin, you might say. However, she responded back with yes, indicating she wanted to have a field operative contact her, ultimately granting permission to take it to that next level. So that's just what I did.
And what happens from there? It's my understanding that police, obviously, they sort of take over and they apprehend her.
Yeah. So during the course of the investigation, I put together a statement of what she said according to the web form, and I kind of corroborate that with information that I'm able to find as far as names, addresses, and whatnot. I pass it all on to somebody in law enforcement. The information provided does include the IP address of the submitter, and law enforcement was easily able to verify the IP address with the subscriber account and address where she lived. So, yeah, it's in their hands to investigate, and they have the opportunity to do a welfare check and make sure the child's okay, or B, act as the hitman and take over at that point and contact her. And I guess that's what they did in this particular case. They called her and said they were a representative of the website and verified what she wanted to have done. So,
Well, she has appeared in court already, and the judge even seemed shocked by this. Like her reaction was she was taken aback. I mean, you don't hear about something like this, and thank goodness that child was not harmed as far as we know.
Yeah. So fortunately, the Miami-Dade authorities acted. They took it very seriously. They made sure the child was okay. That's number one priority for me, is to make sure that everybody comes out of this okay. I have the highest regard for Miami-Dade and how they handled this.
Bob, how many times have you reported something to law enforcement and someone was actually arrested and charged for their query and for trying to arrange something like this?
There have been many cases. I don't have an exact number, because typically when I report something like this, I just grab a case number from my records, and there's not really any follow-up unless investigators have a question. However, since the website has been in the spotlight, I guess, and the media's attention recently, you're seeing more and more cases that have made the news. On average, about 15 requests or so each month end up getting referred to law enforcement. I'm not sure if all of those end up in an arrest. Again, I don't follow up in that capacity. But it's averaged about 15 a month for the past year and a half or so. That's quite a few.
Most certainly, especially if these are people who are not just messing around and think this is a joke, people who are actually serious about this. Very scary.
Well, I try and sort out the hoax inquiries too. I'm actually, pretty good at that, if you ask me. The site receives a lot of requests for, like, SpongeBob, and obviously these are kids that are just filling out the form and just kind of playing around. Those are easy to pick out. It's the inquiries that have information for both the solicitor and the target. And if I'm able to corroborate any of that information, that is kind of a red flag. And that's when I look into it more seriously. So,
well, Bob Inez, owner of rentahitman.com, thank you so much for coming on to talk with us about this. I'm so glad that your tip finally was taken seriously and something horrible was likely prevented.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I am, as long as these tips keep coming in, as long as these service requests keep coming in, I'm going to continue to work them the best that I can and, hopefully save additional lives.
That's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar podcast. You can listen to and download Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, you can always watch it on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Anjanette Levy. We will see you next time.